Okay, folks, we're going to go through this quiz quickly and talk about it. Question one, most of you got this one right. How many articles are there? There are 7 articles. You all got that. There are not 50, and they're not 27. Why? Because there are 27 amendments, not 527. There are 27 amendments. So those are pretty simple. All you have to do is look at your Constitution, and that was an easy one. Which articles establish the 3 critical branches of government? The first, second, and third. That's pretty obvious. The first one establishes Congress, the legislature. Second establishes the executive, and the third establishes the judiciary. According to the Constitution, which sub-branch of the U.S. government has the power to commence impeachment proceedings? That's the House of Representatives. How do we know that? Because it happened twice during the last administration. President Trump was impeached in the House, or at least he was impeached in the House twice. Now what happens is you are impeached in the House by a majority vote, but to be removed, you must then get 2/3 of the vote in the Senate. So it's extraordinary. In fact, it's never happened that a president has been removed. There have been presidents who were impeached before. Bill Clinton was impeached, but he did not. He was not removed. Richard Nixon is perhaps the most famous president, but he was not impeached. The threat of impeachment made him resign. And President Trump is the first president to be impeached twice, but not removed. It bears noting. Question 5, which amendment provides the basis for your right to criticize the government without fear of government reprisal? That's the First Amendment. The Fifth Amendment provides the basis for your right to decline to testify against yourself. The 14th Amendment has a lot of the civil rights that we've come to enjoy in it. The 21st Amendment, that's the one that legalized selling alcohol. Question 6, which amendment provides for the right of women to vote, and when was it enacted? That's the 19th Amendment, and it was 1920. So it was fairly recent. It was not ancient history. I guess it's 100 years, but that's not that long for our country. Where in the U.S. Constitution does it say that the Supreme Court must consist of 9 justices? Nowhere. Article 3 is what establishes the judiciary, but it does not talk about how many justices have to be on the Supreme Court. Why is that relevant? Well, because every now and again there's discussion of enlarging the court or of shrinking the court, it would be hard to do, but it's not in the Constitution that there must be 9 justices. Question 8, which amendment lowered the voting age from 21 to 18 and why? Not the 21st. Not the 50th, because that does not exist. The 14th does not lower the voting age. It's the 26th, because that was added after the Vietnam War, when there were a lot of kids who were being sent overseas to fight for our country, and people decided that they should have a right to vote for who leads the country. Question number 9, which amendment outlawed the sale of alcoholic beverages? And what is the status of that amendment? That looks like a typo, but of course it's not, because alcoholic beverages are alcoholic beverages that you drink in your home. Not A, not B, and it is not D. It is C. The 18th Amendment outlawed the sale of alcoholic beverages, but the 21st Amendment repealed the 18th. That's why we can all, if you're of age, enjoy an alcoholic beverage. Question 10, which amendment outlawed slavery? It was the 13th Amendment. The First Amendment is what provides for freedom of speech and association. The Second Amendment provides for the right to bear arms. The 10th Amendment is kind of a complicated amendment that grants, it's got about states' rights. It was the 13th Amendment that, it wasn't until you got to 13 amendments that slavery was outlawed. Question 11 was a short essay that I'm not going to get into too much, but a lot of folks mentioned things like the reproductive rights cases. Someone mentioned a case involving freedom of expression. at Whole Foods. There were some good answers there. Question 12. Some folks struggle with these three questions. Here's the deal about the First Amendment. The First Amendment does not protect your right to say whatever you want. The First Amendment protects your right to say things and to express yourself without fear of government reprisal, without fear of state reprisal. I mean, in our course, you have to think about these rights, and they're not just individual rights, but they're kind of individual and collective rights. If you work for a private company and you decide to wear a T-shirt that they believe affects the company in a negative way, they have the right to fire you. They don't have to hire. They don't have to employ you. Most of the time, employers can fire you for any reason except a protected reason, and protected reasons are limited to things like, gender, or perhaps age, or perhaps racial or ethnic background. There are some things that are protected. You can't be fired for some protected reasons, but if a company says, look, you can't wear that kind of shirt because some of our customers don't like it, and they're going to go somewhere else, the company can fire you. So if you work at Chipotle and decide to wear a T-shirt that says Joe Biden hates Chipotle, your boss can say, no, you got to take it off, and if you don't take it off, you're fired. You got to change or you're fired. Question 13, if you work at Chipotle and wear a T-shirt that is critical of Chipotle, of course they can fire you. I mean, you don't have a right to that job, and Chipotle does not have to employ you. Now, you couldn't be arrested for saying there are mice in the guacamole. You can't be arrested for saying Joe Biden hates Chipotle because Chipotle is evil. But you don't get to keep your job at a private employer. Now, sometimes these employers will have contracts, and if you have an employment contract, that employment contract may stipulate certain requirements and certain things you can and can't do. But as a general rule, the First Amendment does not protect you if you do things that your employer finds are objectionable, because they have the right to run their business. The question 14 is really the same thing, except that it does extend to things, and I'm sure you've all seen this, where there are lots of videos of people behaving badly. Just the other day, there was a video of a guy who went to a smoothie store in Connecticut, and he was furious. And he was furious because he had asked for a smoothie with no peanuts in it. And someone had put some peanut butter in the smoothie to thicken it. And the problem was he was giving it to his kid, who had a severe peanut allergy. So the kid goes into anaphylactic shock, and the guy has to call 911 and have an ambulance, and he's furious. He's distraught. He goes back to the smoothie store, and he just loses his mind and starts screaming at the young people who work there and using ethnic slurs and stuff, and really just kind of going off the rails completely. And they got it all on videotape, and they put it up on Facebook and social media and Instagram, I'm sure. And the guy lost his job. Now, I think he was employed as like a money manager for some hedge fund or something. But his employer said, you know what, this is too much negative publicity and you're fired. So just because he went in and, in his spare time, and, I'm sure you can make arguments that he was, justified in being distraught, but of course you can't really make arguments that he was appropriate to use the language he used. But his employer fired him anyway, and he doesn't have a First Amendment right to that job or to say what he wants to say and stay employed. It's only a right that protects you against government intrusion. All right, so that's quiz number 1, and if you have any questions, let me know.